Radio Dave now, and you're telling me.
But he told me about this coil spring outfit in Kansas. What's the...
Coil Spring Specialties in St. Mary's, Kansas.
Coil Spring Specialties in St. Mary's, Kansas. What's the guy's name there?
Oh, I think I was talking to Israel. Izzy, I think is who I was talking to out there.
They apparently been doing custom coil springs for some time. Did some for Radio Dave.
Oh, all right.
And so we contacted him about it. This, again, dealing with BMW, they couldn't even give us any of the specs on the spring on their car. So
no.
You got a...
we ordered it. We ordered a spare. We had two good ones, only had 325 miles on them.
Right.
We had to order one, and I think this was a couple $100, $170 spring. We do have the sports suspension on our Mini, but they didn't even have this in their part book in the USA. This is the first one that's ever been ordered for a Mini Clubman that didn't come from the factory.
Gosh, I love to be the first one.
We are the first. We're the pioneers.
And so you sent this to Israel at
Coil Spring Specialties.
Coil Spring Specialties. And what did you tell them to do about our springs?
I told them what we needed was springs that were going to give us that 2.5 inches back, 2.5 to 3 inches back, and be able to support that to about 800 pounds on the rear end. And this is what they came up with. They wound us up some custom springs, heat treated them, and as you can see, they're a little more winding and a little
thicker
little thicker stock that they rolled those with.
Brainius Maximus Magnus. Fill my pretty little head with what you know about coil springs. We're $298 light. Tell me all about it.
Well, everything I learned about coil springs, I actually just learned about 5 minutes ago.
Oh, cool.
So I'll see how we can do. We've got the new spring mounted in the strut. We went down to our local shop, let them deal with that, primarily for safety reasons, and I'm lazy.
$47.
47 bucks. So.
And a penny.
Yeah, exactly. So we're looking good. The important thing about springs.
What did we accomplish?
Well, what we did is we have increased the weight-bearing ability of the car by 800 pounds. So our payload has increased by 800 pounds. So our car weight, our people weight, everything 800. And we were at 3274, I believe, was gross vehicle weights on the rear of this car. Now we're about 2 tons.
Okay.
After increasing close to 800 pounds in battery weight, really over the rear axle for the most part. I mean, from right about here, I guess, where your shoulder is, to back here.
I think we're going to be right at about 3,200 empty.
Empty, right, okay.
And so we needed a little bit of stiffening in the back as we added the batteries. The back end of the car started to sag. Alarmingly, we put the drivetrain in and things are better.
It got a little better.
But it was still a little low.
Still maybe.
So if I went to get these springs, of course you can't hardly get a BMW spring or find out anything about it.
No.
What did you learn from the guys at, what's the name?
Coil Spring Specialties.
Coil Spring Specialties in St. Mary,
Kansas. Yes. So
what did you do to us?
Well, what we know now, we actually know a lot about the spring now, and we'll go through the stock BMW spring. Only 2 of the dimensions on our spring are the same as stock. One is this is the inner diameter, and that's the diameter here, so that the shock fits through, and that's still at 3.26s. The other is the bottom here, and it's they said it's called a full wound open or a pigtail, and it is 3.26 inches. Everything else on this spring has been changed. They did use American wire. It was heat treated. It's a 9254 wire, is what they told us. Our length now of the spring, when it is not compressed, went from 9 inches on the stock spring to 9 3/4 inches now.
Okay.
So that would be the free length. The total number of coils, or the windings here, went from 6 1/8 in the stock spring to 7 3/8 winds now. What really changed was our rate. And the rate of the spring, as they explained it to me, is the amount of weight it takes to crush the spring 1 inch. And before it took 290 pounds on a stock spring, and we have a variable rate of 440/560, or excuse me, 520.
440 to 520. So on the first inch, it's
440 pounds.
But on the last one, it'd be
520. It gets progressively stronger as it goes. And that on vehicles that are carrying extra weight, and he said like an application for that would be, let's say a top-heavy vehicle or a heavy vehicle to eliminate body roll, that variable rate spring is really the way to go.
Okay. Now this material, you said was an American wire hardened
9254 is the description of that wire.
Did we go to a different diameter of coil there?
We must have, and I think I missed that one in terms of the actual wire diameter itself.
Well, we're at 0.57.
Oh, yeah, there we go. You're right.
570 thousandths now.
Right. We are.
The new one.
Yep. No, we've got that measurement. It was 0.476 thousandths, and we're at 565.
Okay, 565.
565 now.
Okay. So we've got a heavier spring, 3/4 inch more length, more windings by 1.5?
By about 1.5, yeah.
Okay. And but basically the same material and fit to the shock absorber the same.
Exactly.
And that should raise us about 2.5 inches with 800 pounds in it. That was where we started.
That was where we were trying to get back to. I think 25 3/4 inches was our
height.
Our height, yeah. So that's where we were trying to get back.
Well, pop these on, show them how to bolt them on, and let's get the wheels on and check that height and see how we came out.
See how we do. All right.
All righty.
We're going to go ahead and install the springs now. To make life a little bit easier, we put a couple of marks on it here, and they are true from when they install the springs. One is just the orientation here of the plate, and the other is align it with the shock. This will just kind of get us there, so we don't have to be rotating all of this, which it does rotate once it's up. So we're just going to line these two marks, and that'll kind of get us there. The only thing is, I just have to put it in correctly. I'm going to put the shock up from the bottom. Got 3 bolts that we took off. And the second. Got our bottom bolt. Just going to have to pull this down slightly to align that. This has a 16mm socket. There are just 2 that we needed here, a 13 and a 16 for this. And snug that up. Go to the top with our 13mm. And when we ordered these springs, there were some critical measurements that we needed too, some clearances here. We've got our a strut here, and we have a little wider wire, but we wanted to make sure that spring cleared our sway bar right here. It clears real nicely. The other side, we've just got brake line and a couple of wires that actually mount right to the strut body itself. We're going to go ahead and torque these down. We'll put these two, our brake line and our sending units here in the strut body. We'll go over to the other side, do the same thing, put the wheels on, lower this down, and we'll take a measurement and show you what the ride height looks like.
Well, Brain, we've got the wheels on and your coil springs. And did you get our measurements from when we did the weight and balance when we started.
Did. We had a 25.5 on this side and a 25 3/4 on the driver's side.
And we've got our battery box in the forward position where it'll be when we're driving. And I've got my magic yellow stick here. And I gotta tell you, if I go directly vertical through the center, I am just under 25.